Hello.
Hello.
Is this working at all?
This is very Madonna. Can you guys hear us?
Well, my one's more Britney because it's not plugged in.
Oh, right.
This is all.
I think it is.
Is it working?
Yeah.
And I'm just used to my voice being more boomy and annoying. Hello, how you doing?
Hello. I'm good, thanks.
Excellent. Lovely to speak to you again. As was said, we started playing you years ago on Triple J, and I think when I spoke to you last, and we're going to get to like important songwriting stuff very soon, but we were talking. I was in Sydney and you were in Melbourne, and it was just after Unashamed Desire had been released. And the lines that connected the two studios were cut out abruptly.
It was very awkward. I was talking about something really stupid at the time, and I remember thinking, God, why did the interview have to cut off? It was a live interview.
Well, I would like you to finish that story. Pick up where we left off, because I believe you were talking about an audition you had made, because you were also not only a songwriter, but an aspiring actor.
Oh, yeah. I dabble in a bit of acting. It's
Just
no
a
big deal. No, it was just an audition that I did for Mad Max. I think it's the fourth. Yeah, that was coming out. It really wasn't a great story at the time, and it's definitely not great now. That's why I was kind of annoyed that it would cut off before I could redeem myself.
So what did you have to do for the audition? What was the role? This is like, you can imagine I've had my breath held since that moment, and you get to the answer.
Oh, it was weird. I got flown to Sydney, and I did this 3-day really intense workshop with a whole lot of actresses, about 6 young girls, and we had to do these crazy things like stand at opposite ends of the room and just scream one word to each other over and over again for half an hour. I understood after that why all my actor friends are crazy, because it's like, it's this weird kind of, purging of your demons, and then at the end of it, you're kind of left sitting in the corner shaking while the next person has their go, and you've got no context to put in what just came out of you. Wow. So, they just kind of kept putting Mad Max back and back. So I got told I had the part, but then I didn't hear from them for a year, and then they said they gave it to someone younger.
Oh, dear. After all that yelling.
I'm fine. I've got to accept it sooner or later.
You did suffer from the old writer's block. So.
I did.
Right. Now, that was just for me. Now we'll do stuff for these people. All right. So that was during a time when you weren't making music.
Yes.
This is what we've been talking about. Do you remember the moment, like we heard about the amazing successes of your first 2 albums, but the moment when you just thought, I don't know if I can make music right now?
I think it was, well, I did quite a lot of touring for my second album in the States, because I released in the States later than I released here. And then my single, Where I Stood, kind of started doing successfully, but very gradually. So I ended up being there for a really long time during that single. And by the time I got back, I realised that I hadn't done any songwriting for a really long time, because I'd just been touring, and I was touring on a tour bus over there, so it's very hard to get your own space. I'd kind of just neglected that side of my life, I think. And then by the time I got to finishing that touring round, I kind of found myself in this place of, oh my God, I don't think I've got anything left to give. I've just kind of burnt the candle at both ends. And I tried for about a year. I rented this little room above a flower shop in Northcote, and I set it all. I paint the walls. I put my piano in there, my guitars, and I got a friend's kind of 70s organ, and I went in there every day. I thought, I'm going to be like Nick Cave, and I'm going to get my briefcase, and I'm going to go to work every day.
Because he comes in, he does like a 9 to 5 songwriting day.
Yeah, he does. I thought, that's so cool. It's so professional.
Were
maybe
you wearing
that's what
a suit?
I need. I wasn't, but in my head I was.
Yeah. In
my head I also had a briefcase. And so I kind of went in there every day for a bit, but it was, I obviously don't work like that, and that's the thing, everybody works really differently. I don't work with any sort of sense of, I guess, obligation, or I I really don't like to think of it as a job because it didn't start out that way, and I don't know, it just takes kind of the romance out of it for me sometimes. So, yeah, for about a year, I really didn't write anything, I guess, worthy of really recording. I wrote a couple of songs, two which made it onto the album, but that was, it really felt like those songs had just been kind of pulled out of me. And the rest of the stuff I wrote was just very abstract, kind of piano or organ music with no words. So by the time it came to a year had passed and I really hadn't written much at all, and I was kind of making myself a bit miserable. My parents and my friends were just like, this obviously isn't making you happy. You don't have to do this.
There's a part coming up in the next Mad Max.
Yeah, exactly. You could be a film star. No, I guess they just saw that I was making myself a bit crazy, and they said, my dad said, you've got two quite successful albums. No one could blame you for walking away from it now. And it was a really hard thing to do, but I knew that I had to kind of walk away from it because I didn't really feel like I had a choice.
Wow. So the reports of you having a meltdown at an ashram during Ben Lee's wedding in India aren't quite as specific as that.
I definitely had a meltdown at an ashram in India at Ben Lee's wedding.
I knew we could blame Ben Lee for this somehow. You'll find most things you can bring back to blaming Ben Lee.
Yeah, but that was just a series of, that time was a series of up and downs, and that was, I guess, a down, and then an up, and then a down. I mean, India's just kind of, it was the first time I'd ever been there, and I decided to kind of travel by myself for a few weeks afterwards, and it's just one of those places where you really can't run away from anything.
Yeah, because of the traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And the amount of people.
And they have those cows on the road. Yeah.
Exactly, they get in your way.
Wow, what does it feel like? Like, I'm sure, everyone here is more than likely a songwriter and has probably experienced some form of writer's block, but the amount of pressure on you from, I guess, the world, the music industry, management labels and stuff, did that just compound that feeling, the writer's block feeling?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt a lot of pressure, I guess, coming from everybody else, the business and the fans. And I think probably most of it was just coming from me, because I really wanted to do a better album that I'd ever done before. I wanted every song to be the best song I'd ever written. So it was like I had set this impossible goal for myself, and every time I sat down to write a song, in the back of my head it was like, this better be brilliant.
Everything's riding on this one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's hard to stop yourself thinking sometimes. I feel like that's the biggest hurdle for me when songwriting, is to somehow switch off your brain, or at least switch off the analytical side of your brain, because it's just so it's just not helpful at all. Yeah.
Well, so maybe we should just lighten the mood a bit, because you were in this kind of dark place, but you must have been able to look back at some amazing experiences. What was the coolest thing that had happened in your life up to that point?
Up until that point, God, I don't know. I really think just kind of reaching a point. I'm assuming you're talking about in my career.
I think so, yeah. Unless there was a really cool time at school or something you want to tell us about. Were you good at sports?
Not really. I don't know. It's funny because the really huge things like Live Earth, I had too much anxiety to actually enjoy the day. So they're really cool when I look back on it. But I think the best, like the thing that I was kind of most proud of was getting to a point in America where I'd toured so much that I'd kind of built up a fan base over there, and it was It had been a long time coming because I'd done a lot of touring over there, and my second album did a lot better than my first, and then kind of gradually the crowds became bigger and bigger, and I found myself doing like big theatres, like a couple of 1,000-seaters, and I just thought that was, the shows were just so nice, and I'd built, my band and I had become really, really tight, and were having a lot of fun on the road, and I just remember thinking, this is the perfect level of success. Right here, big black theatres.
Freeze this here.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one song in particular too off that album that in America that was the one that was doing really well.
Where I Stood.
Yeah.
It was in quite a few TV shows, Grey's Anatomy. It was in a scene where some ambulance had lost control and the brakes weren't working, and it crashed into the side of a building, and then it flipped upside down, and the ambulance guy was impaled on something sharp, and it was coming out of his chest, and he was upside down. There was blood dripping off his face, and my song came on.
Great.
I just thought, of course you'd think of my song for that scene.
That is good. Isn't that a great job, the people who do that, who put music in movies and TV shows? There's one guy who was here at the Song Summit, works for KCRW in America, and his job was putting music in Entourage and 6 Feet Under and stuff. Like that isn't you hold the controls to the world if you're that guy.
Yeah,
that
you really do. And the woman who, I can't remember her name, Alex.
Yeah, I think I interviewed her once. Yeah.
Who did the music for Grey's Anatomy? Yeah, she just, because I lived in LA for about a year, and she was like, she'd be that person that everyone kind of whispered about, like that she. There's this kind of mysticism surrounding her because everybody wanted to make friends with her so that they could get on Grey's Anatomy. Yeah.
Did she come to gigs and stuff, or is she just sort of this?
Yeah, she kind of floated around the place, and all the musicians were trying.
Oh, God.
Suck up to it.
You know how bad Richard Kingsmill's life is with people who know his address at sending demos to him. Imagine her life.
Yeah.
My goodness. And it was America, I believe, which after the writer's block kind of business, which reignited the fire for you to start making music again.
It was America.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, when I decided to quit music, I thought, God, I've got to find something else to do. So I went to uni for a bit.
What's it like being a uni student with, like ARIA awards and stuff, and quite a recognisable face?
I didn't bring them to uni every day.
But they're good for holding down the notes. On a windy day at a Melbourne university out in the
Sorry,
quad.
guys, I'm just going to bring them. I'm just going to hold down these pieces of paper.
I wish you would have done that.
Do you want one? I've got another one. I wore a beanie and I pulled it down low, and also I had long hair, and I don't know. I was a mature age student, so they were actually quite a bit younger than me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe I was just, I don't think they recognised me. There was one girl that sat next to me that was like, "You are Missy Higgins, right?" Just really quietly one day. I was like, "Yeah, I am." She's like, "Okay, cool." And just got back to stuff. And that was it.
That's great.
But yeah, it was fun. It was just something I needed to do, I think, just because I didn't feel like I was being challenged anymore on that side of my brain. But and during uni holidays, I guess, I got offered Lilith Fair overseas, which is Sarah McLachlan's all-female tour. It was big in the 90s, and I used to just think, oh my God, that's such a cool idea, and I used to love all the women that were on that. So yeah, by this time I'd said to my manager, don't let me know about any shows or anything. I just need to walk away from this. So he wasn't letting me know about anything, but he did call me up about that tour because I think he knew that I used to be a huge fan of Sarah's, and he said, "I just thought I should let you know about this just in case you are interested." And yeah, so I said yes because I couldn't really refuse. And then so at that point I hadn't played a show in a couple of years, and I went over and did a few shows in America for that tour, and as soon as I got back on stage, I just thought, oh my God, what have I been doing? This is what I love. this is what I'm meant to do. I just felt so happy being up on stage, and the one song that I'd written in my little studio above the flower shop, I played. It's called "If I'm Honest," and it went down really well with the crowd, and I could just feel it, and that was just really good for my confidence. I think just to feel as though maybe I hadn't lost the ability to write songs. I'd just lost my confidence.
And didn't I see a photo of Sarah McLachlan actually up on stage with you at one point as well?
Yeah.
So there you go.
What was that for? That was Lilith Fair.
Yeah.
Right. We both got asked to sing backup for the Indigo Girls, so we were all on stage. I was huge fans of them as well, so that was one of those, pinch yourself kind of moments.
So there's a little bit of advice for anyone suffering from a writer's block or some sort of blockage in your songwriting. Get invited to play at a massively successful touring 90s all-female festival and get up on stage with the Indigo Girls and Sarah McLachlan, and you'll be sweet.
It works every time.
It works every time.
Yeah.
It's a cure-all for these sort of things. And so that obviously, the confidence from playing a song which you had written by yourself, in this, above a flower shop, seeing all these people react so well to it. Did that just then, remind you that you can write songs really good and shit?
Really good and stuff? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's weird. Like for me, playing a song to people is like the final step in completing it, and it's almost not a real song until you've played it to someone, for me. Maybe I'm just insecure and need validation. But
it's the tree falls in the forest thing.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. And music is meant to be heard, So I got up there and I played that song, and you can just feel it from the audience when they're really with you during a song. And all of the people in the audience kind of waited for me afterwards, and I had a chat with them, and they just pumped up my ego basically, and told me that they really liked it, and wondering when my next album was going to come out, and it kind of made me, I guess it made me realise that music is, it's much more important than I'd given it credit for, because these were a whole lot of people that were standing in front of me and telling me how important my music was to them, or that certain songs had got them through really hard times, or I think I'd forgotten about anyone other than myself.
It's easy to do.
Yeah.
So then did you start thinking, okay, if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to do things differently? Was there like a plan to not fall into similar old traps?
It's funny, everyone's been asking me that, and I really? I hadn't. But I'm going to answer it differently.
Okay, good.
No, it's funny because I haven't really given that much thought about how to do things differently, which is probably a bit stupid. But I think that I've come to realise the most important thing is to enjoy what you're doing. And if any time during the course of touring or working, that it's gotten to a point where it's, I guess the sense of obligation, or the kind of the grind has gotten so much so that it's outweighing the fun factor or the enjoyment factor, then you're probably doing something wrong. And I think for me, I'd forgotten to keep kind of nurturing the creativity in me. Like I'd stopped kind of putting aside time to write songs, and I'd stopped giving myself like quiet time to play the guitar or just be with my instrument. And it's really easy to do when you're touring a lot, but it's so important because you really need to, keep stoking the fire, I guess, because everything else is kind of counterproductive to that, especially when you're kind of, traveling a lot and doing lots of the business side of things. It all comes down to you being able to write good songs. So that's kind of first and foremost, that's what you've got to look after.
And now you've done that. And the album comes out next weekend, doesn't it? Next Saturday?
Yes, June the 1st. I'm not sure
I
what
think that's Saturday.
day of the week it is, but yeah.
Is that exciting?
Yeah, it's really exciting. It feels like it's been a long time coming. When I started, during Lilith Fair, that was the start of me getting re-inspired, and I asked a few of my friends if they wanted to do some writing just to kind of get back on track, because I thought maybe doing some co-writing with people that I loved and trusted and admired would be a really good way to get back into it. And it was really fun, and it made me remember how important it is to have fun when you're writing, because I think I've been just taking it too seriously.
Well, there was the whole 9 to 5 briefcase aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, exactly.
May suggest that.
Maybe not the best idea for me anyway. Although, in saying that, I was giving myself time every day, but I was also just putting too much pressure on it, I think. Yeah.
So this is when you got and hung out with your mate Butterfly.
Yeah, so Butterfly is Sam McLaughlin's bass player. And I went down to Nashville afterwards to do some writing with her.
Straight after Lilith?
I really can't remember. No, I think I went back to LA, and then I met someone who... I kind of just started asking everybody if they had places that they needed me to mind while they were away.
That have pianos in them, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. I said, I put an
setup?
email out and I said, does anybody know anybody that needs me to mind their house while they're on tour, or like water their plant, feed the dog or whatever? If they have a piano, I'd love to do that. And I got quite a few people back saying yes. There was a couple of people in LA, a couple in New York, a couple in Brooklyn, and then some in Nashville. So I kind of, I just found my way down to Nashville and stayed in a little guest house with a piano.
Was there anyone cool that you said no to because their house wasn't good enough?
No. Anyone with a piano, I didn't care if they were cool or not.
It's like a pub crawl, a piano crawl. A
Yeah.
piano crawl from LA to Nashville.
Yeah. Well, it's really, I just love playing, firstly, on new instruments, because they just make you write different songs.
You mean instruments you haven't played on before, not like brand new instruments?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And also just different environments, because I guess I was living in a share house at the time in Northcote, and I also couldn't get much time to myself there either. So, I just, I thought it'd be really great to be able to be in different environments, and New York is so good for people watching as well. Like I just used to go for walks every day and sit in the park and just watch the weird people with, walking their cats and and bizarre like rubbish bin hats coming out of their head. New York is incredible. It's it's so good for inspiration.
And then down to Nashville.
Yeah, and then down to Nashville where I fell in with this really great community there. The songwriting community in Nashville is there's kind of two sides to it. Like there's the country music side of Nashville, where they have these like professional songwriters that do the professional thing. They go into almost a boardroom every day, and they churn out a song from 10 to 12, and then from like 1 to 3, and then from 4 to 6. It's
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then they sell them to artists to sing and that kind of...
Yeah. And it's
like the olden days.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Just to hear stories of people like going into these, before they became stars, just writing songs in offices, essentially.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so there's that side of Nashville, which I don't really relate to. And there's the other side, which is kind of much smaller, where it's more kind of singer-songwriters and just everything except country, I guess. And it's the Nashville that you don't hear about very often, because it's only really known for its country music, but they all kind of like collaborate and, play together, and everyone kind of knows each other. It's this small community, and I just found it really nice to fall into that, and because Butterfly is part of that, and Katie Hertzik, who's another great singer-songwriter who I became friends with. And it was just really nice to be part of a community that all really supported each other. They weren't at all kind of competitive, which I do feel like sometimes in Australia the music scene can feel a little bit competitive, probably just because it's smaller, and because there's not that much room for everybody to
it's
kind
only
of...
a small piece of cake. for
Yeah,
everyone
I
to
guess
have
so,
its piece of
which is understandable because in America, you know, even small-time singer-songwriters can make a really good career out of it. But it was really nice to be amongst people who, just collaborate and all support each other. So I ended up making the album there.
And the very first song we heard from it, Unashamed Desire, which you wrote with Butterfly, and she's also got it. There's another version of the song.
Yeah.
That's like for your comeback single. It's pretty interesting that there's also another version of it that she's recording.
Yeah, my comeback
Yeah, I know.
single.
Sorry, I felt dirty even saying it. The first song that we have heard from your third album.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we both, you know, we co-wrote that song together. We actually, my main objective, like I said before, was to just have fun with this album. Just have fun with songwriting. Just do it, you know, for the reasons why you did it when you were young, just because it's just out of the joy of it. So we were in her living room and we both kind of strapped on electric guitars and we had this big amp that we plugged into and we had a little like 80s drum machine and we started that and just kind of looked at each other and went and just kind of, I guess, jammed for half an hour and came
I'm
up.
guessing that was the verse chords you were just...
Yeah. And then wrote the song together. And we both really loved it. We kind of recorded a demo in her house, and it's one of those things where not many people do that these days. They don't both record the same song and release it kind of around the same time. But you know, I thought it was kind of old school. Bruce Springsteen and Patti Smith did it.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Because the Night.
Wow. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's just been...
Springsteen did do a version of that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
well,
night
they-
belongs to lovers. That song.
Yeah. Well, I think they wrote it together.
Wow.
Yeah. I think she maybe wrote more of the kind of the words and he kind of, yeah.
That's awesome.
But
I guess Delta Goodrem did it accidentally with that Arcade Fire song she released a couple of weeks ago. It's not her fault. She doesn't write the songs.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's identical to this Arcade Fire
Oh, really?
song. A really good Arcade Fire song called Rebellion. Anyway,
Oh, dear.
so let's just leave that off the tape. So is Butterflies, there's different lyrics?
Oh, it's very similar lyrics. Yeah, I just, she recorded hers. She was actually kind of recording her album around the same time that I was recording mine, which is funny because she was co-producing the album. But she kind of preferred it one way and I preferred it just slightly different way. But she had to come into the studio and be objective
With your version.
with my version of the song, and she wouldn't play me her version of the song. She's like, no, I don't want you to hear it because it might influence the way, you know, that you want to record this song. And I thought that was really unfair. I was a bit pissed at her that. I was like, how can you hear my version but I can't hear yours?
She's a good poker player.
Yeah,
Butterfly.
maybe.
And you've heard her version now?
Yeah, it's been released.
And do you still have that that drum machine version of Unashamed Desire?
Yeah. It's oh no, I have the version that we recorded as a
the
demo.
demo, right.
Yeah. We used something a little bit better than a drum machine
Okay,
for the demo.
right. That's great. Well, but you did use crazy instruments on this album, and we're going to get to questions really, really soon. But I just really enjoyed not only that you got to use shakers made out of bottles and that sort of thing, but I definitely saw you playing some Buddhist wheel thing.
Yeah, the Tibetan bowls.
Is that what it is? Right.
Yeah, my last two albums have been very much kind of just very, very acoustic and real sounding and pretty much just minimal band in order to just let the lyrics and the vocals kind of lead the way. But this album, I really wanted the production to just be a bit more adventurous and maybe for the instruments to play, more of a featuring role and try new things. So, yeah. There's a song called All in My Head, which is about writer's block. And there's a line that is, I woke to the sound of a single note ringing out and I thought you'd left me, I thought you'd disappeared. It was sadder than any song that I've ever heard. And we wanted to have some sort of single note thing. We tried a few different things. We tried a flugelhorn, just going, but nothing was very kind of, nothing was really kind of mystic enough. So when we got the Tibetan bowls out, it was just kind of, it's very kind of eerie and in the background.
Is it like sort of putting your finger over a crystal glass, that kind of a
Yeah,
vibe?
exactly.
And then there were the animal noises.
The animal noises, yes.
This is great. If you have seen these videos, it is hilarious. Yourself and Butterfly just mucking about.
Yeah, well, we'd actually had a few tequilas by that stage. And
did I see you riding a motorbike drinking tequila? On the back, passenging on a motorbike.
Yeah, that was Brad, the other producer of the album.
Right.
That was his motorbike, and
that is not recommended.
No,
for younger people.
No, it's not at all. But we weren't on an actual road; we were just in a courtyard going round and round.
But that led to the bird noises.
Anyway, so Butterfly and I decided to stay back late one night, and we just basically pressed record about 12 times on this track and put down layers and layers of animal noises. And it was so much fun. I also sent the track to my brother in Melbourne, and he put on some animal noises himself. Because him and I used to call each other up and just do animal noises on the phone. Like, and we totally know what the other one was saying.
Oh, of course. Yeah, right.
I actually recorded duck sounds on his album a few years ago as well. It's our special sibling way of communicating.
Avian sort of communication patterns.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Secret language.
So he can actually get more out of the album than other people if he was to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
You can understand it.
He knows what that bridge is talking about.
Great. So we'll be able to hear the animal noises when we listen to the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't like you woke up the next morning and went, "Ooh, let's just put those down right there." Good. Carry on. Excellent. All right. Well, I have talked to enough. Maybe if you want to have your coffee as well. I feel bad that it's just sitting there.
Oh, that's okay.
But
don't feel bad.
If anyone wants to ask, I think there's like a microphone there, and it's like a council meeting, so you come and ask questions.
Hi. Besides your actual music, I really love that you've used your success to lend support to animal environmental campaigns. Most recently, the Animals Australia campaign against the cruelty of the battery cage egg production. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you get approached all the time by organisations and campaigners. How do you make decisions about which issues to lend your support to, and how do you balance the time and energy needed for that with what's required of being a writer and your career as an artist?
It's a tricky one because you definitely. I mean, my dad always said to me that with fame comes responsibility, and
Wait a second, wasn't that a line out of Star Wars?
I was about to say that did sound very Darth Vader. Very Yoda.
I saw Ross Noble. Ross Noble is a master at doing cool sounds with these things, and I'm that's that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm not very good at it.
So it is definitely difficult because I do feel passionate about a few different causes, but you can only really lend your name to a couple because the thinner you spread yourself, the less effective it is. So I guess I just I don't really know how I figure it out, but I just I choose the things that I feel maybe could benefit the most with my help. And also, I think it's really important to help out with causes that you genuinely feel passionate about, not just feel like you should feel passionate about. I think I've made that mistake in the past. It's gone, well, I should support this because I know that this is right, but I don't really know anything about it, and I wouldn't really know how to articulate my opinion. So
and then you get asked a question about it in an interview.
Yeah, especially something political because I'm not very political. So, it's much better to help out with things that you actually are reasonably informed about.
Yeah, and I think the bird noises on the album and the insect noises and the animal noises, that's helping as well. In a way.
Helping the animal cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lending your voice.
Exactly. It's humanising the animals for everybody.
Yeah, anthropomorphization, I think it is.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
it's
That's what the album's all about.
That's what it's,
really.
yeah, excellent. We boiled it down. All right, who's next? There's like microphones all the way up there, so feel free to get on one. I definitely haven't talked about everything, so there must be other things that you want to ask Missy. Anyone? Oh, yeah, you want to jump up to a microphone, or are you cool just to chill out there?
It's like saying which kid would you catch first if all your children started falling off a cliff. I don't know. I mean, probably Watering Hole, the song with the animal noises on it, actually, because it's so different for me, and I can safely say I've never had animal noises on any other albums. But it was also really fun because we got in this really old gospel singer from Nashville, James Nixon, and he came in and he did it. Firstly, he kind of sat around with a guitar and just told us all these stories as he was playing us blues songs, and
Wow.
it was so cool. And then we put him in the booth and we just said, just do your stuff on the song. And so he sung over the track just a few times, and it was just magic.
Wow.
And also, it's just a very different song for me. I wrote it from. I have a friend who's a really great writer, and I said to him once, "Why don't you just send me some words and I'll put them into a song?" So he sent me what is now the first verse of this song, Watering Hole, and I put it into a song, and it's the first time I've ever done that. But I just wanted, when I was getting back into songwriting after, I guess, feeling stuck for so many years, I decided that it was really important to kind of set new little kind of projects for myself and just make it fun again and do things in a different way to kind of get outside my head. So that was one way that I did it, just kind of taking other people's words and making them into a song.
Nice.
And then doing bird noises over it.
That's right. The opera for that song will be quite complicated. There's that dude, and then there's that dude, and then there's the birds. Cool. Anyone want to? Yep. Maybe. Yep.
I was in primary school. I think I was about in grade 5. So I'm not sure how old that meant I was, but it was an instrumental piano song, and I think we'd just had a history lesson, and I'd just learned about the English criminals coming to Australia in the for the colonisation period, and how some of them came over because they'd stolen a loaf of bread or a pig or something. So I decided to write a song about that, and there was a whole beheading, and there's a story about him stealing the pig.
Wow.
And then there's a dream sequence, which is like do 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 do, and then I go back and tell the story of his life. It's all instrumental, so this is just in my head.
No Turulai Atati, we're bound for Botany Bay.
No,
Wow.
no. It's just I think that was just. I remember that was the first song I wrote. This is my first experience with writing a song with a storyline before I actually knew.
Without
I could
lyrics
sing,
too. That's pretty unheard of for someone that age.
I think I'd spend 5 minutes explaining it to people before I played them the song.
Right.
Before I played them the 1 minute song.
You could have your life could have taken a drastic turn if you'd stuck with that sort of thing. Instrumental songs with a précis, with a setup before the.
Yeah, I could safely say I wouldn't be here today.
You could be in a different workshop. I'm sure they've got them. Yeah, you do.
Having written sort of on your own, I love the flower shop in Northcote, and then the experience of being in Nashville in that community. How important is it to have a tribe around you, and what do they bring to your songwriting process?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a tribe around you or a community of songwriters because, like I said before, that was what I really I just found so helpful, and that's actually what I really like about this summit is songwriters coming together and talking about the process, and there shouldn't be competition in this world. Like it's so much better when people can collaborate and help each other out, and that's what I found in Nashville was that yeah, like everyone kind of had their own little studio set up, and everyone there was this kind of sense of, okay, this is my career, like I'm taking this seriously, but also there was this really laid back vibe of, why don't you just come over, in the afternoon and we'll have a beer and we'll write a song on the porch. And it was the first time that I had actually thought, oh, this is actually, these people treat music as a really legitimate career, whereas in the past I think I had felt, and I know that a lot of my musician friends in Melbourne kind of feel as though music is looked down upon sometimes as a career in the community, and it was a really great thing to kind of to have reinforced in my head. I think that it's a totally legitimate career, and it's really important.
Yeah, it'd be good if people in Australia could feel like that, because then there's places like you said, like Nashville, and there's Berlin as well, another part of the world where creativity is not only fostered and encouraged, you get cash for it. Like there's like that creative dole sort of thing.
Yeah, and
Ireland
Europe
as well.
people get musicians get paid really well for not doing anything. No, I mean
What are we doing wrong here?
they get like an allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we just have to lie on our dole forms every 2 weeks here to do it.
No, but that's what I feel like. There's this kind of general sense of all musicians are dole bludgers here, or that they kind of just smoke bongs and play PlayStation and maybe write a song once a year.
Isn't there a PlayStation here? There's like a Guitar Hero thing here. They're not helping. Nice. Now we should do we're going to use the microphones now.
I noticed you did quite well in the International Songwriting Contest. I'm just wondering what, and sorry if it was mentioned before and I popped out, no. I'm just wondering what made you enter the contest, and whether it was yourself, something you wanted to do, or whether management said, oh, maybe you should enter this contest, and how you found it, whether it's something, what your thoughts are on the contest, and if it helped at all in the States.
Yeah, that's a pretty funny thing to be asked after saying it shouldn't be a competition.
And you are hosting the APRA Awards tonight.
Yeah,
another
that's
competition.
true. Okay, there should be a little bit of competition.
A little bit of competition, yeah.
I don't know. It was, in all honesty, it was kind of my record company that sent me some information about that and said, do you want to maybe enter some songs into this? And I don't really know, to tell you the truth, how helpful it's been. I know that there was a lot of Australians actually that got quite good exposure out of that. Like I went through all the kind of winners and nominees, and it made me realise actually how many great musicians we have in Australia, because they kind of won almost every category, and it's an international.
There was a lot of Aussies like Eskimo Joe and Living End were involved, and heaps of Aussies, heaps of singer-songwriters, and we had a huge, bunch of artists in that. So yeah.
Who won it this year? Because Emma Louise
actually
came
Kimbra
second.
won Songwriter of the Year for it. So it seems to be like it's become not just for upcoming artists, but for quite successful artists are entering the competition. That's why I just thought I'd mention it, because Kimbra actually won it, and I noticed Missy Higgins in there as well, and so I thought it was quite cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Dude behind dude. Yeah, for you.
Thanks, previous dude. As well as being a writer, I'm a dancer, and I was stoked to see that you used dancers in your recent video clip. What was the decision there, and how was that process and experience?
Well, I've always kind of had a fantasy about being a dancer, but I can't dance. So I thought maybe if I had people dancing around me, it would kind of look like I was half dancing. But I just thought if there's a way that I could do this that isn't like, a Britney Spears kind of dance video, like if it was a bit too, something a bit more kind of contemporary and artistic, and Natasha Pincus, who did the Gautier, somebody that I used to know.
Yes, I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
So she did this film clip as well, and she heard my song, and she realised that it was quite a different song for me, and she wanted the film clip to be as different as well, and just gone, a new direction for me. And I really wanted that as well. I just thought I would love to do something a little bit more kind of, I don't know, stylized and abstract. And it was really fun. We shot it in a theatre over a couple of days, and these dancers were from Chunky Move, Melbourne dance company, and we had their choreographer and their lighting designer and their costume designer, and we spent a couple of days just they just contorted me into different shapes and threw me up in the air. And the funnest part was at the end when I got to stand on their shoulders and fall back into them. That was really cool. So yeah, it was just a concept that she came up with that I really liked the idea of, because it was just new territory for me.
And you got to wear a dress made of paper cranes.
I did, yeah. That was really uncomfortable to sit down in.
They don't tell you that at the dress shop. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Joanna Lee. When you were talking about your first song, you were speaking about how it was instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you start to add lyrics into your song? You're known as being such a honest lyricist, and the amount of imagery you put in there. Was it a really conscious thing? Was it an effort to start to put lyrics in, or was that just a very organic thing that happened for you? And what was that process of adding more lyrics in rather than just being an instrumentalist?
It was actually, my older brother is a songwriter, and I grew up kind of going to watch him play in pubs and bars and hotel foyers and stuff. So I always admired him for being able to write songs long before I could, and I actually couldn't understand it. I just thought, how does that just come from his head and just make this beautiful kind of thing? And so he actually just said to me one day, "Missy, it's not that hard, just try it." So I went, okay, maybe I will. So I think I literally just kind of went in and sat down at the piano and tried it, and it was much easier than I thought it would be. But when I first started putting lyrics to my piano pieces, they were really bad songs. Like, I was listening to whatever my older sister was listening to at the time, which was like, Mariah Carey and Celine Dion kind of thing. So it pretty much sounded like a mixture of all the cheesiest music out there.
Can you remember any lyrics?
No, I've blanked them out of my memory. Oh, definitely.
Don't be embarrassed. We had Joel Madden here, so... So I'm just saying, we've got a baseline. We've got a... Huh?
I'm thinking you're not a fan of the voice.
I'm sure it's excellent. I'm sure it's wonderful. It's just this is all jealousy, I promise. This is all born of jealousy.
Okay.
So how did you go, you're writing these cheesy pop songs, how did, cheesy
How did they turn not so cheesy?
Because, Chili now not cheesy, so what was that process?
I don't know. Well, I'm not sure how they became not cheesy all of a sudden. I think it was just a little bit of practice. And, even when I'd written the cheesy songs, I kind of knew that they were bad. I think it was when I kind of just had been doing it for a year or so, and I'd been listening to, Sarah McLachlan and also, people like the Waifs, and I was a big Something for Kate fan, and Elton John, and all these kind of really good songwriters and lyricists that it all kind of came together when I was about 15, and I did music class, and they actually gave us a project to write a song, and I hadn't done my homework as usual, so I went into the music school during recess, and I wrote this song for the music class, and then that afternoon in music class I played it as part of the assignment, and that was a song called All for Believing, which ended up being the song that I entered in, or that my sister entered in Triple J Unearthed. And
you wrote that at recess?
Yeah. But, I don't really know how that kind of you know, that was a good song, and it ended up being on an album. But the ones before that were really crap. So I think it was just a matter of getting in a bit of practice.
Wow. So somewhere between all-female festivals in America and just popping out to the piano at recess,
Yep.
all of your answers are contained therein. Awesome. Well, Missy Higgins, we have to leave it there because there's other people who want to have a chat to everyone. But thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And have fun.
Thanks, everyone. So, yeah.